Hello students, in this quick maths video I'm going to talk to you about how to take flipped classroom notes. I know that sometimes your teacher asks you to watch a video and try to understand the material that's in there, and sometimes it's difficult to do that. So I'm going to walk you through a method to taking notes that will help you retain the information better and help you use those notes to try to perform the homeworks and classworks and examples that you have to do. Alright, let's say for argument's sake your teacher asks you to watch a video. And the video might be a little boring, and it might be 12 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that.
Lesson 1, this is a video lesson for the Intro to Polygons lesson in the Polygons unit.
So you might think to yourself, well, there's no way that I'm going to retain all this information. However, if you follow the steps that I'm going to give you, it should be fairly easy to do. The first thing that you should do when you're taking math notes is to write the topic down at the top of the page. You should notice that the video that I showed you is a video about Intro to Polygons. So the first thing that I'm going to do in my notes is write down Intro to Polygons at the very top of the page. That way it helps me keep my notes organized. The next thing that you should do is to summarize important points using an outline. If you'll notice, my outline has all of the important topics, the main ideas, with a bullet point or a dot. And then all of the ideas that are related to those ideas or all of the details are notated with arrows. This helps you organize yourself and helps you make a nice flow for your notes. So you don't have to go back and watch the video a second time to understand the material. The material is all here. In the third step, I wrote down that the formula should be identified, labeled, and boxed. If you look a little bit further down in the notes, one of the formulas that you're going to be getting is the sum of interior angles. So I've written down this formula, I've labeled it, and I've put a box around it so that next time I need to use this formula or to remember this formula, I have it written down here. Another benefit to this is that once you look through these notes and find these boxed formulas, you'll be able to take those and put them on flashcards or something like that to better help you review for the material. The next thing I'd like you to do is to create a list of steps or instructions. So let's say your teacher goes through a method on how to do a certain type of problem like this.
We're going to take the number of sides, which we're going to abbreviate with n, and we're going to subtract 2 from that. Don't believe me? That means 180 times n.
In order for you to understand that in the future, what you're going to do is write down the steps in order to answer that type of question. You write down a couple of important identifying words, you write down what to do next, you write down what the variables mean, and then you identify what you're supposed to do to conclude the problem. You're also supposed to copy down examples into your notes. Often it's difficult to try to take notes and apply them to a novel problem unless you have notes that show you how they work. So, for example, in these notes, you have 2 examples that are fully worked out. Notice that the work is there. I don't just write the answer, I write down the work because in 10 days or 20 days or 50 days from now, I might not remember exactly how I got from the formula to the conclusion, and having my work there is just an easy way of following along with what I did. Easy way to analyze the thought processes involved. After I've written down all the examples, I should identify vocabulary words to associate with the type of problem. Keep in mind that I'm going to be giving you, or your teacher is going to be giving you, situations where there might be word problems, there might be different vocabulary that might throw you off. In one of these examples, I've written down some and each. These 2 vocabulary words indicate that we're looking for either the sum of the angles or each angle in a regular polygon. So it's easier for me to understand which of these formulas to use if I identify important vocabulary words. It's also important to draw diagrams or charts that represent the situation. If you're a visual learner, or even if you aren't, there's often a diagram or a chart that you need to write down that identifies things that are going on in the notes. For example, here's a diagram for triangles, here's a diagram for quadrilaterals. These are Venn diagrams, of course named for the famous German mathematician Dr. Diagram. Your objective here is to make sure that you write these diagrams down or copy them down so that you don't have to go back to the video and watch it again. You're able to pull that information right from your notes, right from that single sheet of paper. The last thing that I'd like you to do is to make a list of questions to ask your teacher. At the at the end of the video, you might say to yourself, well, I don't understand a couple of different concepts, like what is a regular triangle and how do I figure out n for a shape that I don't know? It's important for you to write these questions down because as you're at home watching these videos, you might not know all these pieces of information. But what you can do is when you come into the classroom setting or into the virtual classroom, whatever your teacher is applying, you can ask these questions and you can get answers to them. Or alternatively, you can go onto a site like YouTube or a site like Google and try to figure out the answer by yourself. And that is a good way of studying. A couple of quick hints and suggestions at the end of the video here. You can pause and rewind to your heart's content. Your teacher can now be considered on demand. You can listen to them say the same exact thing over and over again, or you can watch the same exact exercise over and over again until it makes sense until you understand. Another good idea is to note the timestamp for important info or questions. For example, if you have a question about something that your teacher said at 3 minutes and 38 seconds, you should write that down so that your teacher can refer to it very easily and answer the question directly. Another important thing to do is to write notes to yourself in the margin. For example, if I'm looking at these notes, I wrote down that an octagon has 8 sides. Well, an octagon has 8 sides, just like an octopus has 8 legs. It's important for me to note that down to build a framework around the new information using old information, so that you can make sure that that cements in your head or it gets more solidified. Equal sides, equilateral, that's another piece of information that was not from the video, but it's something that I was able to pull from my own mind. If you're able to make connections between your own knowledge and the knowledge that's presented in the video, you have a better chance of retaining it. All right, this was a quick maths video on how to take flipped classroom notes. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Good luck studying.